Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to this little video we've got for you today. Today we'll be telling the story of Hop Online. I've got Paris Childress here with me on the call. Paris, how are you doing today?
Really good, Cuba. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And thanks for agreeing to do this. Kind of the origin behind this is I spoke with Paris and we were in touch with Hop Online. Hop Online, Paris's company, is a Zenpilot client. And kind of over the course of our conversations, it transpired that, you guys at Hop took kind of the Zenpilot system and you built stuff on top of this. Some exciting stuff that we wanted to dive into today, like, a custom ClickUp CRM, an applicant tracking system. You're using the goals feature, which I really wanted to highlight. So we decided to do a little bit of video around that and show you some of the kind of tricks of the trade that Paris and his team have come up with. Just some interesting stuff that can inspire your agency and your operations to be more efficient. So Paris, I wanted to thank you once again for taking the time today. Before we dive into all of this, got the presentation pulled up here and everything. Before we start going through this, can you give our audience a little bit of context about you, about Hop Online, who you are, what you do?
Absolutely. We're pretty much a full-service performance marketing agency. We primarily work with SaaS companies and other high-tech IT-related companies all over the world. Our agency is based in Bulgaria, and most of our team is in Bulgaria, but there's a few also around the Eastern European region. And for the most part, our core offerings are performance with paid media, Google Ads, and paid social, and then also our organic set of services like SEO, content marketing, email marketing, etc. And today we're about 35 people, and as I mentioned, clients all over the world. So it's a really remote and virtual setup.
If somebody were to ask you at a party or something, like what is the most special or unique thing about Hop Online, or something that makes you personally excited, what would you say?
I would say that we have a value proposition, a value to cost proposition that is very, very hard to compete with. You've got an amazing team here, mostly in Bulgaria, and because of our model and our geographic location, that does give us certain advantages. And so most of our projects, we were able to put tons more manpower and brain power towards each of our clients than they would get for those same budgets with agencies that might be based in the US or in UK or more expensive markets.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for adding that in. Now, I'm wondering, this will be going out to the Zenpilot channel, but just in case anybody's watching this who doesn't know Zenpilot, very, very briefly, what we do is we help agencies fix chaotic agency operations, chaotic project management, and we primarily do that by helping them set up systems, whether on top of ClickUp or on top of teamwork.com, that help you put everything you're doing as an organization into one system, track everything, compile data based on that so you can finally get visibility and clarity into what's happening at your agency and whether you're on track or off track with regards to where you want to go as a business. This is the very short kind of elevator pitch, but actually first, as we go into kind of the main content here, as we start telling the Hop Online story, chronologically, I want to start at the beginning, even before you engage Zenpilot, just a few sentences about that. Can you tell me about kind of what led you to work with us in the first place and kind of how that played out in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. We were prior to ClickUp, and we've been on ClickUp now since we started working with Zenpilot, and that's been now maybe close to 3 years, I think. But prior to that, our whole project management setup was on Asana, and because of the limitations of Asana, we were bolting on a lot of other tools, and we had a very complex tool stack for running our operations. And in addition to that, I really felt like we didn't have the processes and systems in place to really scale. And I knew we were entering a period where I thought we had a great opportunity for fast growth. And I was really worried if we grew too fast that the wheels would fall off because operationally we didn't have the systems in place. And so we made a big decision that we were going to move off of Asana. And I started researching ClickUp, and I think that I even found ClickUp through one of, I think it was Gray's webinar or maybe a tutorial about building the account dashboard. And this was about 3 years ago. And that has evolved a lot since. But that's what got ClickUp on my radar screen. And at that time, it was a great value proposition because ClickUp, first of all, ClickUp per seat was about half the price of Asana. I think that's changed since then. Back then, we were looking at big cost savings. And one of the key features that really tipped it for me was that they had built-in time tracking. And we were doing time tracking in, I think it was Toggl. It might have been Harvest, but either way, we had to bolt it in. And time tracking is really one of the core operational elements to how we run the agency because we really need to understand how much time is being spent on the projects so that we can analyze project profitability at the project level. And it was pretty difficult with a time tracking tool that we had to export the data out from. So the fact that Asana had built-in time tracking, and I was always frustrated that, ClickUp had that. I was frustrated that Asana didn't. And probably the other thing that I thought was great was that there was no extra fees for things like Gantt chart views and other non-typically to-do list type of views. Yeah. And the hierarchy was very, very flexible. So we decided to move over, but we knew that we needed help. And of course, because it was Gray, I believe, who initially with his video got on my radar screen. I reached out to ZenPilot and then we started working together. And about 3 months later, we had everything moved over to ClickUp and we were off to the races.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, very interesting that you mentioned, for example, the time tracking element. That is not something that we'll be diving deep into today. But it is a big part of what agencies get out of working with us, finally getting to grips with making time tracking granular enough and accurate enough to be able to see a lot more about what is happening at their agency. What we will be nerding out on, though, today is a lot of what the structure is like in your ClickUp, how you have things set up in terms of views, statuses, tags, all of that good stuff. So I wanted to start diving into that. I am now going to start using the slides a lot more. So for the general setup, let's start with kind of, you open ClickUp, high level, what do you see? I mean, I've got some screenshots here, so I'm going to show the viewers right now. And can you walk us through, a little bit about kind of the trio of spaces here, and then we'll dive into each one as we go.
Absolutely. We really follow the blueprint of ZenPilot from day one to maximize this very flexible hierarchy. So the temptation is to create lots and lots of spaces and maybe even create a space for every project. You guys really convinced us that no, there's plenty of hierarchy levels to do that deeper down. So you only need 3 spaces, really. And these are the 3 major elements of an agency business. The first is delivery, and this is your core service delivery. So in the delivery space is where most of the people are going to work on a day-to-day basis, so we're working on projects. And within that, you'll have your clients, you'll have projects, and all of your service delivery activities are going to live in that space. The next is people and operations. This is, you can think about it like the back office of the agency, but this is all of your HR and operational aspects, including finance. So it's HR, ops, finance, accounting. And so we're going to talk later about an applicant tracking system that we built out of that space. But that's something that only a few people in the agency really need to see. If you have like an operations director, HR manager, finance manager, that's the space for them to run the business side of the agency. And then the third space is growth. And growth for us mostly is split between marketing and sales. And growth is also fairly limited. There's only a handful of people really that work day to day in the growth space. It's the marketing team and the sales team. And here, this is everything related to growing our agency. And we have a folder for marketing, another folder for sales. Most of the sales folder is comprised of the CRM, and then it's custom CRM that we built and we moved over from HubSpot. We'll talk about that later too. And then marketing is pretty complex. There's a lot of different lists for different initiatives and campaigns, but that's everything marketing related lives in that marketing folder. So delivery, which is where most of the agency works, projects and clients, people and operations, and then growth space.
Yeah, gotcha. I had a couple of questions about some of this. So first of all, I wanted to clarify within the delivery space, this folder, on the screenshot, you're not seeing anything kind of next to the folder, but that's supposed to be one folder, one client, right? That you're sticking to that loop.
You're not. Yeah, we've whited these out, but so we do clients at the folder level. So inside of delivery, there are lots of folders. Most of those folders are clients, active clients, and then we do different lists inside of that folder, which more or less correspond to the services that we're delivering. So if you're watching this, you can see we've got creative services that are active. We have conversion rate optimization active, paid social, PPC, SEO, and the final review and strategy is a little bit more, it's not directly a service, but this is really where the project management tasks that don't necessarily align specifically to a service might live.
Yeah.
Review and strategy might have a task like build a KPI dashboard for the project, or it might be prepare a QBR deck for next month's meeting, stuff like this.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a catch-all, right? Anything that doesn't fall under like a specific service that lands under review and strategy for it to have a place to live. And then one thing that I'm just curious about under people and ops, I have a feeling this space kind of becomes the most custom for agencies. Like every agency has a different way of thinking about things here. One folder that I noticed here, and I wonder if you can say a few words about it just out of curiosity, is happiness work. What is that?
Well, we have something here called the Happiness Committee, and the Happiness Committee is planning all of our culture-related events and initiatives. Phil, we normally do 2 team buildings a year. We just had one last weekend. We do some volunteering here locally. We have happy hours and meetups. And we also even coordinating things like we have a kudos award every month for a kind of employee of the month style. All that is lumped into happiness work, which is designed to make our people happy and keep them happy. And it's run by the Happiness Committee.
Okay, that sounds super fun. And it really speaks to how seriously you're taking this, that you've got like a whole separate folder for this. I love that. I honestly do. Alrighty, so that's the trio of spaces, and I think some people who are familiar with the ZenPilot system might find this, quite familiar. But then, and now, we wanted to move into some of the stuff that you build on top of the typical ZenPilot system, and that's the stuff that I'm really excited to dig into. We'll start with a few smaller things before we dive into the kind of the main big thing, which is the CRM, which is kind of the origin story behind the conversation. You mentioned you built a CRM, moved off of HubSpot into ClickUp, but then it expanded into this whole conversation here. So without further ado, just scroll through that. Applicant Tracking. So we're doing applicant tracking in ClickUp. Tell me about this. I'm going to show some of this to our viewers here, but tell me about the why and the how of it.
Absolutely. Well, like I mentioned earlier with the time tracking, we had this ecosystem of SaaS products that was really fragmented. We did have a separate ATS, an applicant tracking tool, and we wanted to bring this into ClickUp. So one of the main benefits of ClickUp is that it can replace so many of your other tools, and it allows you to consolidate your SaaS stack tremendously. So applicant tracking, we decided we're going to move that into ClickUp. For the most part, applicant tracking functions a lot like a CRM, but it's a CRM for your employee pipeline, your hiring pipeline, as opposed to your client pipeline. And so the most used view here, and what we're looking at is a high-level view that's lumping all the positions together. But within this applicant tracking folder, you can see that there is a list for every role that exists at the agency. And then within each of these lists, the primary view is this pipeline view that we're looking at right now. So we've mapped out, excuse me. That's my turn to start coughing, I guess.
Yeah. I was mentioning that before we started recording that I've got a bit of a cough today.
I need some peanuts before the call. I think that wasn't a great idea. Okay.
I guess.
So we've got stages that kind of mimic what even like a CRM would look like in terms of life cycle. We have new applicants, and I will mention that the new applicants is fed by a ClickUp form. So when people apply, and the most common is people that are applying through LinkedIn job ads. And I'll take a second to pull this back up here. people apply through various places, but primarily through LinkedIn. We have a link to our ClickUp form, and they come in and they fill out that form, and that feeds to that form fill creates a new task in the first stage, which is new applicants. And then that puts it on our radar screen. We review that and we decide, first of all, at a high level, qualified or not. If it's qualified, we'll most likely move it to first interview, goes through first interview with our HRBP, and then the HRBP decides whether or not to move that along. The next step would be asking that applicant to do some sort of an assignment or a test that's connected with their role. And then there typically would be a second interview with the hiring manager, who would be the direct manager of that person being hired. And in some cases, I would do a final interview, mostly for culture fit. And then we've got pretty much an offer or no offer decision. And then the person, if they're hired, they get onboarded and their journey starts. So this is really a pipeline for all of our recruiting. And you can see here on the screen the different roles. We have job descriptions using ClickUp docs for job descriptions. And we even have also different career paths. So there are a lot of different teams that have career paths that would be a junior and then a like primary and then a senior and then on to a team lead role. So there's also all the career path design and mapping is all documented here in ClickUp.
I love how centralized that is. Everything related to a role, you just click into one ClickUp doc and it's all there. When you publish, this is just out of curiosity, when you publish these jobs, do you also publish them as like public ClickUp docs or do you use something else?
Well, normally if we're using LinkedIn, which is our primary channel, we're using LinkedIn's features there. In some other cases, we have used ClickUp docs. And then we've got on our website, we also have these roles that are available, and then the application form is linked there to the ClickUp form.
Understood. And one more thing I'm curious about here is I'm seeing a bunch of statuses under the done category. I love it about ClickUp that you can specify some statuses as done and what that does to some of your views, like how granular this can get. I'm curious. Well, hired is pretty self-explanatory. But I'm curious, for example, the save status, does that launch any, automation, or does that feed into another process where the saved candidates are, saved and then you can review them later for future recruitment processes?
That's a great question, and I think we probably could take this further. Right now, this is a save for later, so these are qualified candidates that, for whatever reason, they were not rejected, but they also were not hired. They might have received an offer and rejected it, but we want to keep in touch with them. So we don't have automations here, but I think we probably should. And I think these are people that we would certainly want these people to continue following us as an agency, either following us on LinkedIn and generally being aware, maybe getting on a newsletter. But that hasn't materialized yet. Right now, it's just a holding tank for candidates that we like that for whatever reason we didn't move ahead with.
Okay, gotcha. And one last question. What about for the hired status? Have you got anything here that kind of moves them more automatically from that status to an onboarding process, or how's that structured?
Yeah, we do. We have an automated process that when someone is moved into the hired status, it triggers an employee onboarding process. And that's also documented in ClickUp inside of another folder. That's when our HRBP steps in and creates what we call it kind of an employee dossier for that employee. So that's a complete file that records their entire history of career progression, salary and compensation, all of their reviews. We have biannual employer reviews, and all of those reviews are living inside of that folder. So once someone is hired, that journey starts for them, and they move into another section, which is basically there's a folder in the people folder. There is a list, for every single person who is actively employed, and then that list gets created automatically once someone moves into the hired category here and the ATS.
That's great. That sounds like a huge time saver. All right, and it's clear to me that even just on this ATS, we could spend a bunch more time. Definitely, dear watchers, leave us a comment if you're curious about any additional parts of this. and we'll try to, I don't know, maybe record a follow-up or get you answers to those questions. Meanwhile, the next thing on our radar was, and another thing that kind of made me perk up when we were talking, is your use of the goals feature in ClickUp, and specifically to track OKRs. I wanted to already move to the screenshot here. I've got a similar question here, in terms of OKRs, the why and the how, and, what made you use the goals feature here, and also how do you have this structured? And do let me know if I need to move kind of between the slides here, kind of steer me, because I've got this.
Yeah, we can start with this view because this is the highest level view. At a broader level, OKRs, objectives, and key results, I think it's something that a lot of organizations have adopted and agencies. And the goal is that when we do this quarterly, we want to have clear goals that are tangible. And in most cases, they're a little bit stretch goals so that we really try to push our teams as far as possible. And we, like a lot of the other stuff, we were using a separate OKR SaaS product. I think it was GTM Hub. And it certainly works better than the goals function in ClickUp. But we realized that we really didn't need to be paying what we were paying every month for a dedicated OKR software, that we could still accomplish what we needed to accomplish here in ClickUp with the goals, this goals feature. I'm a little bit disappointed that this goals area hasn't evolved as much as we'd like, because I do think ClickUp could easily just eat the OKR software category if it wanted to, and I think it's time that ClickUp did that. But for now, what we have is we have folders, and all the quarterly OKRs live in one folder. I usually start the process by setting usually between 5 to 7 company-wide objectives. And the way OKRs are typically designed would be a cascading kind of a design, which is top-down. So at the company level, you have some big objectives, and then the various teams will create their objectives that roll up to or align under the broader company objectives. And then when you get all the way to the individual employee level, they set their goals and key results according to the team objectives, which in turn, roll up or cascade all the way up to the company. So we do all this in a folder. And then as we're seeing here, this is an example of an objective that we set last quarter, I believe. To be more hands-on as a manager. Well, this is specifically for me, and you can see the targets that I've set for myself. But other people, as they decide how they're going to align under this objective, this company objective, then they set the key results. So now they don't call them key results here. So when you set, ClickUp calls them goals. So we really refer to that as the objective. And then after that, you've got, I'm also looking at mine here. Then you have targets. So we treat the goals as objectives. We treat the targets as key results. Target need to be something that are more quantifiable and measured. So if we want to publish 5 case studies this quarter, it's basically, you can see here 1 out of 1. If you get to 5, you get 100% fulfillment on that target. It could also be percentage-based, but usually these are quantifiable targets or key results that need to be achieved. So we're asking underneath the company, we're asking the two, there are 3 group heads. We're asking them to create targets specifically, and then we're also asking people on those teams to create their personal targets that align with their manager's targets, which are rolling up to the company objectives. Okay. I hope that's all clear.
Yeah, no, I think it is. So what I'm curious about here is how often do you actually look at these goals and targets? Is it, part of a monthly conversation? Is it like weekly one-on-one each time you check progress here? Like, what's the cadence and the process for this?
We encourage all the managers to refer to the OKRs and all their one-on-one meetings. Typically, the one-on-one meetings are bi-weekly. So we want to have at least 1 or 2 touch points or check-ins on the OKRs per month throughout the quarter. And sometimes I think we need to get better at this, frankly. In the worst cases, we're kind of putting them on the shelf and then we're returning to them at the end of the quarter, and that's not good enough. But one other thing that I'll mention here, which is great, that about doing this in ClickUp, which you would never get from an OKR software, is that you can also map tasks, any type of tasks, directly to the targets into an OKR target, which is a key result. So within the different targets, you can see here, there's one example on the screen here that there's one task that lives inside of this target, which is help optimize the onboarding process for new hires. So that's a way to really actively use ClickUp tasks to work towards the accomplishment of those OKRs. So the integration with tasks and OKRs is great here.
I was going to ask about that. Like, I feel like a lot of the time when you have either, some people have a separate sheet to track OKRs that just lives in Google Sheets, or if you have a separate piece of software, there's this disconnect, right? You need to have, on the one hand, you're tracking your day-to-day, week-to-week work in one system, and then if you accomplish something that ticks off a larger goal as done, you need to kind of manually go there and tick it off, and there's a huge potential for the data to get desynchronized here. Here, I can see that while you're taking advantage of the flexibility that it doesn't always have to be that way, you don't always have to map tasks to targets. You sometimes do, because why, have duplicates when you can just, if a task is marked as done, it's also done within the context of the target. I love the way you set it up here, honestly.
Right, yeah. Another thing is simply just to have OKRs closer to the work itself. And when we did OKRs in the separate software, a lot of people, they would work in that software at the beginning of the quarter to set the OKRs, but then to go back and revisit it, you have to leave whatever you're doing and you have to go in and log in to another tool. And just that alone creates friction to get people to switch tools. So when you see a task, and that task has a relationship to a target, which lives inside of one of the objectives or the goals, even working on those tasks, you're kind of constantly reminded that this task is part of this OKR. And so it brings you a lot closer. It kind of reminds you a lot more frequently of the OKRs throughout the quarter.
There's this analogy I'm working on. It's not 100% polished yet, but sometimes I have a feeling like the more I work in these different apps, these different platforms, going from email to Slack to Sheets, ClickUp, like when you have things centralized, it's like in your day-to-day work, you had to, like, if it were a physical office, you had to, let's say, move between floors to access certain things, or move between rooms. Like I said, the analogy is not perfect yet. And here it's like, when you have these goals in a totally separate piece of software, it's almost like you have to go to a different building, have a look at that, and then come back. When it's so much closer, it's so much easier to just update this because it's just 1 click or 2 clicks away. So I totally feel that.
I still love that analogy. Kuba.
Thank you. I'm trying to come up with more of these. I tried to use those in the First Class Operations newsletter that we send out, because just to help people kind of visualize this work in a more exciting way. Anyway, and thanks for saying that. For the goals, before we move on to the big one, to the CRM, did you have any other tips to share here?
Let me think about that. I mean, it's a lot of these do kind of roll over from one quarter to the next. I mean, typically we do have a goal around growing the number of clients, growing the revenue. We have always goals around client retention, logo retention, and MRR retention. So some of these things do repeat. So you can have, it's not bad if some of your objectives tend to be repetitive quarter over quarter, but then the targets should be more reflective of reality at that time. So targets are changing a lot. So that's kind of how things have evolved for us with OKRs.
Okay, gotcha. Alrighty. Thank you for sharing all of that about the goals feature. Again, watchers, you got questions about this, drop us a comment and we'll try to follow up the best we can. Now, let's talk about the story behind this conversation, the big thing you built in ClickUp and managed to replace a very big piece of software, which is HubSpot, with a system built in ClickUp, the CRM. How did it happen that you migrated? And just teaser, I'm going to show a little bit about what this maybe looks like here in your ClickUp setup. So tell us the story behind this.
Sure, yeah. Well, I presume most agencies have a CRM. The big names are HubSpot, number one, Salesforce, which is a behemoth. happening of Pipedrive, and we had used all of those before. We had gone from, well, most recently, I think we were on Pipedrive, and then we migrated over to HubSpot. And I really don't have anything bad to say about either Pipedrive or HubSpot, but we were using it in a fairly simplistic way. We didn't really need the complexity of, certainly of HubSpot. Pipedrive was a little bit simpler, but really what it comes down to is we needed to be able to track our deals in an efficient way. And in the spirit of what I've been mentioning, where ClickUp continues to eat all of these other SaaS tools that we're using in our toolbox, I knew that this was a matter of time where we were going to build the CRM inside of ClickUp, and we could say goodbye to HubSpot. HubSpot's also very expensive, and we probably were scratching the surface in terms of using the capabilities and full features of HubSpot, but we just didn't need something that complex. So the first thing we did was we tried to really airlift the core CRM, which is the board view, basically. We would just airlifted it out and dropped it into ClickUp. So we preserved these different stages. We have our warm leads, then that moves to discovery, then needs proposal sent, close won, close lost, postponed, or I believe, I think that these are all the stages. So the same stages we had in HubSpot, just copy pasted all that over. And also really one of the interesting things about our agency, and maybe some agencies listening can relate to this, we do have a small sales team, but we do also involve a lot of other people in the agency at different times in the sales process. So part of our sales process might involve doing a really high-level audit of a Google Ads account, or a very high-level SEO audit to point out a few big issues that we can spot, or maybe build out a forecast, do some keyword research. So these are tasks that typically get assigned from the salespeople to the delivery team. And what we can do then is we can really bring the full team into the sales process by connecting those tasks and deliverables that are part of the sales deliverables here and into our CRM. We definitely do not want to have a separate CRM, which was HubSpot previously, and to be assigning tasks from HubSpot to, let's say, a person on our PPC team to do some keyword research for a prospect. Because then anything that takes them out of ClickUp creates unnecessary friction. That would rip them out of ClickUp and drop them into another to-do list or another task management platform where they'd have to fulfill something with a deadline. That was really chaotic. So that was the main reason why we needed to bring the CRM into ClickUp, for the same reason as we did with time tracking, applicant tracking, and OKRs, which is to move critical parts of the process that were disjointed outside of our core project management environment closer to the work itself. So now we can involve everyone in the sales process with these tasks. And we also have, what we're looking at here is the board view. So this is still mostly what I'm looking at every day. And I'm just seeing what needs movement, what is losing momentum that we need to re-engage with, and where are we losing sales or pipeline acceleration, and then what's coming into the pipe from the warm leads and discovery stage. So this is, as you can see, we have basically a task which is shown kind of as a card view here in each one of these. Every task is a deal or an opportunity, which is what typical CRM would call it. And then when you click into that, we've got tons of customization here. So we have different notes. So when a lead comes in, I'll take a step back. A typical inbound lead would come to our website and they would fill out a form, and that happens in Calendly. So we have integrated Calendly with ClickUp so that somebody comes in to book a discovery call through our website. They fill out a form that's within Calendly. It's a custom form, and we ask questions around their needs and their budgets and their timeline. And that gets populated into the notes fields here automatically in ClickUp. So when we get a new inbound lead, we receive a chat notification and an email notification that a new deal has just populated here in the CRM. We click into that, we go into the deal, and we can see the fields that the prospect has filled out. So we can see the name of the person, the company name, the website. We can see their approximate budget, the channels, the marketing channels that they're currently using, and the timeline about when they're looking to hire an agency. So we can really get a quick snapshot of whether or not this is a qualified lead or not, and whether we want to act on it. Now, I mentioned Calendly because this does mean that people can book directly the discovery call through our inbound lead form on our website. We need to decide how we're going to handle that. I mean, in almost all cases, we're going to move ahead with that discovery call, and we're going to do some research prior to that. So the first thing is here that we're capturing in the description, we're capturing all those custom fields in Calendly, so we get an understanding of the deal. And if we go to the next slide, then we've got these custom fields. Now, the custom fields are typically what are going to get filled out when the deal moves to the discovery phase. So it comes in as a warm lead. We accept the discovery call and we move it to the discovery phase. And when that call happens and it's concluded, the sales person is supposed to fill in all these custom fields. So we've got lead quality, which is kind of a qualitative measure of, out of 5 stars, how juicy or how nice is this lead. We have a probability of winning. We have a target monthly recurring revenue. So basically that creates a calculated field for our sales forecast. So we basically just multiply the target MRR times the probability. That gives us our probability weighted pipeline across all deals. We do that process every week. We got the contact name and the title, and we've got their LinkedIn. So any fields that are missing where there are gaps, the salesperson should fill these in. And this creates a really rich record for the deal. And we also have Firefly's recording. That link to that recording is going to get dropped in here. We tag the service groups that are involved. So these deals can get on their radar screen really, really early, because that actually influences our hiring decisions. So if what you see here is PM plus content in the service group line, which means that is paid media plus content group. So this deal could involve both. So both of those team leads need to be aware that this deal might be coming in the pipeline for them at some point. We have an estimated start date, as you can see there. So all that is custom fields over on the left. On the right, you can see, basically this is the comments section of a task. So in the comments section, the salesperson and everybody else involved in the deal is leading the discussion or taking part in a discussion about the deal. I might drop in a Loom video that can tell someone who's doing the keyword research on the PPC team, hey, these are the competitors to research. Here are some category keywords that you have to be sure not to miss. And we don't want to target these particular keywords. They have a different kind of intent. So I'll shoot a Loom video and I'll drop it in here. And if there's a task, I don't know if it's on the next slide here, but no, if we go back one, if below there are basically subtasks as well. So we do the deal at the task level, and then the actual to-dos that are part of the deal, which is something like, maybe do a Google Ads audit, do some keyword research forecast or whatever, the stuff that's getting assigned to people all throughout the agency. Those are subtasks. And then in that subtask, you have a similar kind of a card view where you can drop in anything here. So this is really everything that you need. And this is what's shown here is a decent example, but I think I would probably get back to the salesperson and say that there's some missing fields here that need to be filled in. Mm-hmm. And this is where it is today. I think there's one more step in this evolution for us. And that's actually based on a video that Jeff Cipher on your team created, I think recently, which is how to build a CRM in ClickUp. And there's two more things that need to happen for this to really get completely rounded out. Is we need to have a separate list for our contacts and a separate list for organizations or companies. But a typical CRM has this trio with three different pillars. You have your deals or your opportunities, but you also have contacts list with all the people, and then you have a company list. So that's the next step, is to build out those lists so that you can create relationships among all three of those entities. And we haven't done that yet.
I think there's great potential in that, to have these living as separate kind of records in ClickUp. I mean, in the recent update, they also went the direction of not everything needs to be a task anymore. You can have different item types. And actually, Jeff already has a video out about that as well on our channel if anyone wants to see that. So you can be more kind of explicit in setting something as, okay, this is a task to be done. This is actually not a task. This is a company in our system. This is a contact in our system. This is a deal in our system, etc. So, but honestly, I love the iterative approach, right? You're building stuff kind of brick by brick here, level by level. And, this is a result that gets you kind of good outcomes now, and there's more to build on top of that. Shout out to Jeff and all the great stuff he's been putting on our channel, honestly. I mean, he's not called the productivity professor for nothing.
Oh, yeah, he's impressive. He's a wizard with this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, total beast when it comes to putting out those videos. Okay, and the last thing I've got here to show to our audience is the forecast view. Can you say a little bit more about that? Because it looks...
Yeah, sure. Now, this is really, really important. I mentioned our forecasting. We actually forecast our sales pipeline and share that with the whole leadership team every week. It's really, really important that what's happening in sales is not in a silo, that everybody in the organization has full visibility into what's happening in sales, what's coming, and when, because they're going to be impacted. And that is going to determine who works on what projects, personnel decisions, hiring decisions, all that flows ultimately from the sales pipeline. So every week we need to update across all these deals that are in these three key stages, which is proposal sent, needs proposal, and discovery. We need to accurately reflect when is the new estimated start date, what is the MRR target, the monthly recurring revenue target we're going for here, what service groups are implied or impacted, what's the probability of winning, and then what's the probability forecasted MRR, which creates the pipeline value. And then other tags are visible here for specific services or sources of leads. But this view is extremely important. So at really every Friday, me and our sales manager, we look at this together and we decide, okay, what is the new probability on this deal? And it's so dynamic that this is why you really have to do this at least once a week, because deals go cold really quickly. Deals can heat up really quickly. And some deals can get resurrected from the dead, and then suddenly a probability of 10% jumps to an 80% probability. And we need to reflect this as often as possible. And we're trying to always forecast about 3 months forward in time. So we're trying to predict our revenue out 1 quarter ahead, and it's based on this granular detail here. So I will take this and export it out into Excel, which is one of the features here, and then I'll drop that. We have a bigger sales forecasting Google sheet that looks at all of our current, like basically same store sales, our current portfolio. We forecast same store sales growth. That also includes some clients that may be churning, but usually that is tracking our ability to retain and upsell that revenue. And then we layer on top of that, we layer the sales forecast to give us the complete picture. And I shoot a long video and I send that out to the leadership team once a week. And usually it either puts me in a really good mood or at the end of the week, heading to the weekend, or it puts me in a not so good mood. And I think the feed can detect that. But this is really the pulse. I mean, it creates some excitement. It shows people, hey, we've got a really robust pipeline. There's a lot of work coming. We might need to think about starting a recruitment process now for this group or that group. Yeah. And it happens every week. So this is really a key process for us now.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, this gives you what we're all about here at ZenPilot. Visibility, clarity. You have a sense, a pulse of what is happening at the agency, the direction you're in, whether it's whether you're on track, everything that I spoke about kind of at the beginning of this video. We've come full circle. I love it. I honestly love that. Alrighty. Our time is rapidly running out here, actually. So is there anything else that you wanted to give as a tip for the CRM piece, or will we be wrapping up here?
Maybe just a broad bit of advice to anyone who is using, any agency owners and operators that are using ClickUp, but also using a separate CRM like a HubSpot or a Pipedrive. Hopefully you can see here that you can save a lot of money and also improve on processes by moving that into ClickUp. It's not that difficult. And the big benefit is that you're going to bring your entire team closer to this, into the sales process. Just like every other aspect of ClickUp is bringing everything that's not directly related to project and client work closer to the work. I mean, people should never really have to leave ClickUp. So it's possible up here with the CRM.
ClickUp allows you to keep everything finally in one metaphorical building. That's great. And, this may look like a lot on the screen right now, but all of this is built brick by brick, level by level, view by view, task by task. So I'm really glad you emphasized that point. All right. I think I can hide the slides now. Okay. Well, Paris, this was great. I mean, that must be a lot of inspiration for anybody who's looking to run their agency on ClickUp. And thank you so much for just being a guest here today and sharing this whole, these workflows and doing a little bit of a show and tell here. Super, super nice that you took the time. Can you tell the audience where they should follow you? What should they do to stay in touch with you, to get more insights from you, or to get in touch with Hop Online?
Sure. I'd suggest finding me on LinkedIn. You can look for Paris Childress, Hop Online, and you should find me easily that way. And please reach out and connect. I always love to meet and network with fellow agency owners and talk shop.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and by the way, if you want to hear more from Paris was recently a guest on the Agency Journey podcast. At the time when this is published, that episode should already be out, so just look that up, and then you'll get more insights from Paris. I heard that was a really good recording, and Gray had great things to say about that episode, so definitely look that up. Meanwhile, thank you so much for joining us here today. That's everything we got for you today. And don't forget to follow, subscribe, do the usual stuff. Subscribe to First Class Operations. Go to zenpilot.com for more insights on how to build your agency operations on top of ClickUp or on top of teamware.com. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you again, Paris.
Thanks very much, Kuba. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. All right.